I will say the last thing I'll say about it is like I did join on a hackathon at one point that did try to work with Alexa. At one point, we were trying to program something for Alexa, which the documentation for that and the API was actually not that crazy. Setting up creating like an Alexa app, not that insane for it because it does have a language system built in. So to teach it phrases, you just have to type out the phrases in English. And then there is a process where, yeah, if you're going to use words that are not normal English words, you can train the program by speaking it yourself and trying to get it to learn those words. Not guaranteed it'll work for all accents, but the more people that use your app to learn, the faster you'll learn. So I was very surprised by that. Hey, if anyone wants to do an Alexa-based program for your projects, there you go. And think of anything you want. So Alexa, Google Home, don't okay. Google Home stuff, Siri stuff, any of those, you want to try to make a project that actually integrates with like an IoT site-based system with an at-home system, go for it. Like really feel free to kind of broaden what your options are for projects. The main goal is just to, again, build things that you have something for the resumes. You don't have the job experience. You want to have things you built. So whatever seems interesting to you. Again, if you find something that's interesting but professional, you're going to be more likely to work on it, complete it, and make it presentable for the interview. So. All right. Like I said, you'll be surprised at sometimes how easy some of those things can be. But the documentation, the SDKs. So, quick little interview test here. What's an SDK again?
Source development kit.
Software development kit.
A software,
Close.
yeah.
I had the last two. I didn't know the first.
Software development kit. So it's just a package you can, one of those, and like most SDKs are some sort of NPM package or Maven or Gradle package that you can bring into your application to then interact with it. So I was saying before, the Amazon or Alexa SDK was very developer friendly. So they had it for multiple languages. So they had one for like JavaScript, one for Java, one for C#. So definitely build stuff with those. Main thing, of course, you just need an Amazon account so that the information will be passed with Amazon's API. So anyway, here we are. Windows 3000, we still have our app up. Currently, we have the main screen and our login screen does nothing. Sign up now has our register splash with our register form. So this is where you hopefully should have your application by now. If no one's having any bugs or any issues with your project, please speak now so we can work on them before we move on to new stuff. I'm getting this form to work.
I'm bummed that I'm not gonna be able to like any progress that because all this work is in my computer at home. So
right. Like I am recording this, so you'll be able to work on it tomorrow. You do have class. Oh, you don't have class tomorrow, so you do have time tomorrow to do a follow along.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'll take just take notes of what we did so I can like hop around and
take notes. I did upload yesterday's video this morning, so I'm trying to get better at that. So I'm trying to be better at it because I'm sure if I don't, I'll suddenly get that on the anonymous form soon. Upload the videos faster. So I don't want that. I'm gonna try to make sure I'm getting better at making sure those videos get uploaded as soon as I can. So
do you want me to harass you about it, Cliff?
What's that?
Do you want me to harass you about it? Like, do reminders help you?
I tell you guys, tell me right the very next day. If I don't have it uploaded, just send me a reminder. Because sometimes it's just, sometimes I upload it, but forget to add it to the playlist or something, because then you trim off a little bit from the end. So yeah, feel free to let me know. Like, that's something me and Arnell have with each other. I'm perfectly allowed to pester him on things if we need it. Like he tells me sometimes, message him 3 or 4 times a day if I need to for different things. So message me once in the morning and then once again at night, and I'm fine with that. I will not get upset if you guys are asking me for something and I told you I would give you. So you're pestering me is because I didn't do my job. Feel free to pester me to do my job. All right, so let's go ahead and do, so yeah, right now with the form, if we fill it out, 10, actually, I'm gonna do 2 because we have clip 1 and clip 10, I think are already now registered. So register. That was not a confirm item, that was just a license number. Submit button, and I didn't run the application yet. Make sure IntelliJ is open and running. That will help. Is the car rental application, good. Play button. Goes. Database is running. Nope, it is not. It's going to be rebooted. This is not running right now. Yeah, try that again. I rebooted my computer earlier, and I'm going to need to reboot it again for the video stuff. There it goes. Now that it's running, we hit that button again. Broken right now. There you go. User, it's been registered successfully. Back to here and actually load into that. Soup test. Test. Use code databases. Car rental. Tables. Users. See, we have a 10, 1, 10. Sergio's in there. We're gonna get that one.
Hey.
And clip 2 just got in. So we just added clip 2 right now. Look good. Currently, our system is successfully creating our user, which is useful. But after we create the user, we now also need to create the customer account too. In order to create the customer account, though, our customer account, our customer path is a protected path in our API. And when they say a path is protected, what does that mean?
Can only be accessed by someone with the proper authorization.
Say that again, Mike.
It can only be accessed by someone with the proper authorization.
Proper authorization. Now, what does that mean for someone else? Mike is 100% accurate. He's using good terms of art. And I want someone else to explain it. Make sure you guys understand those terms of art.
In this case, authorization would be a JWT token.
Correct. A JWT token that can authorize them as a user. So that we can connect. And that's how we're going to use that authorization in order to connect this customer account to this user account. Because we want to connect this user account or this customer account to a user account. But in order to connect to a user account, make sure that we're not allowing anybody to connect a customer account to any user account. We need to know that the user account is the user themselves. We don't want Matt being able to create an account for Mike's user account. We don't want Matt being able to fill Matt to be able to fill out Mike's user customer record and assign it to Mike's login. That could be, not saying he would, but Matt could be malicious. No, hacking. Yeah, Matt needs to rent a car and he doesn't want to pay for it, so he'll have Mike rent it for him.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
I got you, bud.
So that's what the correct authorization means. By saying we want to create the account with the correct authorization, we want to provide the token that then allows us to act as a certain person, and we can only act as that person. Only in any actions we take, only coordinate with that user record and later on with that customer record. So once we create the user record, we're then going to log in as that user so we can get a valid token back. Now you can always later on in versions of your application, you can update your create record route to actually authenticate and create a token during that process. So that is something you can do. It is something that's possible. It is something we do, but at the same time, you notice that our front end can do it for us. So our front end can, of course, register and log in at the same time. So as whenever you see that happen on a site, when you create an account and you're instantly logged in, what's interesting is that you don't know which way they're going on this. Is it when you register, does it create the account and return a token, or does it create the account and then log in at the same time, and then create a second trail with a login and then create the account? You don't actually know what your application is doing. And unless you go into the network tab of your inspection to see how many outgoing calls are happening, there's no way for you to know what's happening. So while you can set it up that your registration can also log in at the same time, it's not required. So we're going to create the user record, and then we're going to use the same exact details to then log in as that user. And so that we can then create our customer record. So go back to our application. We go to our registration file. There it is. And pop at the top of the screen. We did the on submit, we did the create user record right here. We created the user record, and that's going to respond back with our, I believe it responds back with the data, I think. Log response data. Did it? Did not. Yours replies back with a message. So you don't actually respond. So the expressing app doesn't respond back with the login information. It's actually a good thing because we don't actually want that. We don't want the user information. We just want to know that it was created so that we can then log in and get the token later. And we want to resist sending user data down to the front end as much as possible. It's never want to send user data down because again, sniffers, packet sniffers. Always fun to say that when you're trying to sound something malicious, you're like, oh, those sniffers. It doesn't sound that malicious, but sniffers are one of the worst things you can deal with when dealing with secure data. So you want to avoid that at all costs. So if there's a sniffer on the person's network, you don't want to be sending their user data back and forth. So you want to resist sending that much, as much as possible. So let's go ahead and do the login now. So once we log in, we can then once we register, create the user, we can then run the login method. You don't need to run it unless it works. And we need to send the exact same data we had before. So now with login, we can now do the exact same thing. Now, why we're doing this, the reason why we do this is so that we only run this data here, and it's going to keep us from having to massively indent stuff or do multiple posts in the same function. This way, if some part of the process fails, we go to that function for the failure. If we don't successfully create an account, we'll go to the create user function. If we don't get a token, we'll go to the login function. If the profile isn't made, we've seen the database that the user was created, and we did see in the network, if we go to the network tab, we can see, hey, they did pass a token. We're going to go to the create customer record to see why the create customer failed. So this is another main reason why it's good to separate your methods or separate the pieces into 3 different functions so that you can then isolate the logic for that part of the process. So login, again, we are going to reach out to an external system, right? So we're going to want to make this what?
Async.
Yes. There's an async function. We'll go ahead and do another try block so we can make sure that if it fails at any point, we can catch it and then respond to the error. Try. We'll do another res response. This is another benefit of doing another function that we can reuse this response variable. Inside here, response will be localized and scoped, and it's constant, so we can't change it. And so we'll be told, hey, you already have a response. We need to come up with another name for the response of a Axios request, which, anybody have any ideas what you could call it? If you had to come up with another one, what you'd call it? Not fun to think of that, right? This is another benefit because this is scoped to this bracket match here. We can reuse response down here. All right, and so for our login, what verb is that using?
Post.
Did you double check or you just are you guessing?
I'm just guessing.
Does anyone want to take a look at the API or?
A post
Shouldn't that
mapping
be a
would
get?
correct.
It's a login, so it's one of the things that you could argue you are changing. We do want to send something in the body. And so it's bad practice to send a body and a get request.
Yeah.
So in this case, we'd either use a post or put. Most of the times a login would be a put because you would most likely update the last logged in data record on the database. Your system isn't doing that, so it's not a major issue. So a lot of systems would use a put request because they'd be updating the last logged in record. So most companies will keep track of when you last logged in so that they know how active of a user you are. Our system isn't doing that, so it's not a big deal, but that's why we still want, even though we're not updating the data, we're still going to use the post or put, one of those two, just so that we can stay in parallel with the common practices of the industry, and because we are trying to send something in the body. All right. Even though we're not necessarily changing something in our database, in most high-end systems you would be, or larger systems you would be updating something. So either put or post. And just again to clarify, put is not used as often anymore because we no longer need to follow the put format. Post being the way it is now with JSON, a lot of companies are just using post for both create and update. So, but just be aware, technically, according to the terminology and according to how the verbs work, post is to create, put is to update. But yeah, a lot of companies now are just using post for both because it's the same structure. We're no longer using the post format, the put formatting for updating data. Did anyone actually double check the API to see which one it is?
Yeah, I mean, mine is post, but I'm not using
is a
maps.
I just looked, yeah, that's post.
API post URL, and we have that saved in our system. We're gonna do API/auth, and I believe we'll sign in, right? Is our endpoint.
Yes.
And again, we're going to send it the exact same data object. The data object has both the username and our password. So the two keys that we need in order to log in. So we don't need to make any changes. We already did that data in the on submit. We've already updated that information here. So we have everything we need in the data field, including the extra stuff. But as I said before, the backend doesn't care about those extra keys. It's going to ignore them. Only cares about the keys it wants. Otherwise, users will be very malicious with that. So console response, you get that, we send that out. Again, we'll console.log response.data, and we're hoping to get a token. Can anyone confirm that that is the field we're expecting to get back from the backend? I want to make sure it's on the video. I want to see if it's on the video, so let's go ahead and actually look at it and find that route. Where is that route? Someone tell me where that is. Other than Matt, because this is his project.
Okay.
Matt should know this, but you guys should know Matt's project since we're using it. Know your own parental app. Not be expecting me to tell you how this app works.
The auth controller.
Auth controller. Is that where we log in? All right, let's take a look. There's sign in. So you see it here. So this is it. Let's look at the response entity. The response entity, we're going to return a JWT response. JWT, get all this stuff. So if we look at this quick, we see that it is token, ID, username, and roles. Are we returning the whole thing? Let's look at payloads, I guess. Response, JWT response. Yes, it looks like we're going to be sending down to the front end the token, the ID, the username, and the roles. Out of these, we definitely want the token and the roles. It's questionable whether or not we need the username and ID. Not sure if we need those, but for now we'll keep them there. The front end definitely needs the token right now, and later on when our front end is going to restrict spots of its site based on the role of the person, we will need this eventually. Am I saying this is wrong? No, because we might want the username potentially for talking to them. So we can be like, hi, username. So we could use that, but again, we could also just use the profile's name. So in the future, we might put out an update where this stuff is no longer sent down to the front end, but sending it is not dangerous. This is the only one I would say we don't want. It is the user ID. That means if I ever do get access to the database, I can go and find this user specifically. And I can't think of any reason the front end would need the user ID. None of the other data refers to the user ID, does it? Only thing that might connect to this is the customer. Nothing else connects to the user ID. They all connect to the customer ID, correct? So this is the only item that I'm feeling like is extra data that could be used maliciously by a malicious person if I'm not careful. That makes sense?
Mhm.
So I'm just gonna add the comment here to do update. Make sense?
Sure.
So Not a big deal to have it now. Again, there's nothing that we, at the moment, I can't think of any reason why how they could use this maliciously, but this is just information that the front end doesn't need, and then if the front end doesn't need it, I don't want to provide it to any potential malicious person. With anybody malicious, the less you give them, the harder it is for them to do what they want to do for you. It makes it harder for them to attack your site. The more information you give, not saying every bit of information is useful, but the more information you give, the more likely they're going to find something to do with your system. So only give the front end what it needs. Do not give it anything it doesn't. Make sense? So, in the future, it might even be nice to remove this, but this one's less dangerous than the other ones.
The get ID is highlighted yellow. Are we using that anywhere in here?
Not sure. I don't think so. Nothing in our code. So it might be getting used by something in another package, but nothing in your code is using it.
Okay.
We're using libraries and packages. Something in the library package might be using it. But when I do a get usages, nothing of the code you've written is using it. I'm not always sure how these light up anymore once you get into Spring Boot. When we get to Spring Boot, I don't rely on this anymore because it can be triggered by random things. Anyway. So we got that. So yeah, we are going to get the token key. So the token key here is going to be provided. So if you want to grab that here to our code, I'm just going to print out response.data, and then I'm also going to take that token. And so I'll go straight on to create customer. And let's just respond. Let's just respond to the data, and we'll move on next. Let's just see how that looks. So we're going to save that. Let's go ahead and do cliff 3. Not 23, 3. Submit. You get user completed, registered successfully. Not on the second one. This. That. Save. I don't think I saved. No, I'm not saving. Save. Oh, because I'm hitting Control S, not Command S. I'm done. Try that again. So now 4. This is again why I use this format of numbers, because how many times I add a user that doesn't get added. Yeah. There it is. I see a token ID, and there's my role of customer. So that is good. We are getting the correct role, and we have our token right there. So we have our authentication token. That is something we want. We definitely want to use that in order to create the customer record, right? I'll wait for a second to make sure everybody else is working. And this one, good. Awesome. So now that we have that, we can now call the create customer method. I'm going to do create customer. Same data object we've been dealing with. We're also going to send it the token from response.data. I'm going to send it that. At this moment, I don't feel like the registration is successfully done yet. So even if I want to auto log in a new registered person, I'm not going to update the auth provider, because what if the create customer fails? They're not a valid account. That does mean at some point, either here on this item, under this catch, or under the create customer, there probably should be a way for me to remove a user account if this fails. So currently, if my create customer fails, I now have an orphaned user account with no customer record, which could break my system, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That is something that you want to keep in the back of your mind. I don't think in our projects we created a delete for users, but it is something you might want to have because we are doing this separate build. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So be aware of that, keep that in the back of your mind. We don't have that system, so you could end up with orphaned user records. But don't have a customer record. So it might be beneficial at some point to add in, if these fail, to delete that user record. All right. The difficulty to that, of course, can be making sure that if it fails here, how do you, that means that most likely the token failed, or the credentials failed, so you don't have a token. How do you delete a record without making a publicly available delete entity that can just be abused by a malicious user? So Unlikely in this one, we could delete the user record if it fails to log in. But in here, if it fails to create the customer record, we definitely should attempt to delete that user record. Another thing you can do, of course, is in your backend, have a route that will clear any user records that don't have a customer record connected to it. Because we have that parallel. And then you can create something called a cron job, which is a timed event that once a week, it triggers this endpoint that will just go through the database and clear out any user records that don't have a customer record. That make sense?
Mhm.
Those are things you can add. These are just cleanup items. These are ideas I'm giving you for any of your sites if you want to add these extra features because they can sound interesting and make your application more fleshed out. So I'm giving you ideas of things you can do in your object, on your application that could just be useful and can look good. Are they required? No. And should they be part of your MVP? I don't think so. They're not needed, but they can be ways of adding on to a product to make it more fleshed out if you need to add more something you want to make the project bigger. Anyway, let's create the customer. Are we sending data to an external system?
Yes.
So what do we need?
Async.
Yes, we need async again. All right. Catch. That. And our try, we'll go ahead and do again our const response equals await. Just dot. And now we're going to create a customer. What verb are we doing with this?
Post.
That sounds like we're unsure. Are you sure?
Sure.
Okay. Be confident.
Yeah, I'm looking at the back end, so
Cool.
Post.
We'll go ahead and post. We'll go ahead and post to the API post URL again. Yeah. Slash API slash, now what's the endpoint for this one? No, it should be, but
Don't think it, well, for mine anyway, I don't think it's slash API.
it
and
isn't.
slash customers.
Why wouldn't they all be API? So,
I don't
Should
see
be
API.
it should be slash API, but it's not.
oh, it's not. Okay.
Yeah, it is
That-
just slash
thank you for
API.
checking
There's
that.
no
Alright.
extra extension.
Slash. Words. Slash. And anything else or just customers?
Just customers. It's the default post on that one.
I know you know this, Matt. It's your
Sorry.
project.
I'm used to answering questions about my project. I'll
Just
see if I can
mute
shut up.
yourself and acting like you're answering the questions.
That's a good idea. I'm gonna.
There we go. He has to unmute himself to answer now. If no one gets it for a while, I'll ask you. Don't worry. I'll give you some time. I'll give you some chance to answer. Make sure you do know your project. But I'm pretty confident you know it. So
It's just the responses are automatic.
he's like, you want? I can understand wanting to answer questions about your item because, like, this is mine. I want to answer. But no, it's good. I've looked at it before. I'm happy with it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have used it. So no need to worry. So now I'm going to use get data. And again, our token does not get provided in the body. Where does the token go? I need to check terms of art. Come on. Where do we put our authentication token?
Header.
Let's put in the headers. So to do that, we go into the request options. So we go to the options object, and we say we want to do the headers option. And then from there, we need to give it the actual header key. What is the key?
Bearer token,
What is it?
bearer,
Is that the name of the key? That is what it is. It is a bearer token, but what is the key name? The header key. There are other, technically, there are other
the
terms
authorization?
of ways you can provide authorization. What is it? Say something? So bearer token
is
is
the
not the only-
authorization.
Yeah, authorization.
It's a JWT token, auth.
And just authorization is the name of the header. The name of the header is authorization. Bearer token is just one type of authorization item out there. Authorization, why are you yelling at me? I guess I don't need double quotes, by the way. Authorization, Then here we can give it the token, but again, since we do want to provide a bearer token, that's what our system is expecting. But our token doesn't come with the bearer string by default. We're going to do the backticks to bearer, space, and then token. Brackets. That is how we add it up. Make this one look a little nicer. I'm going to put these on separate lines. So I'll do one line there, one line here. Enter. There. Really want to get in there? No, here's the rest of it. There is our Axel. So destination, body, options, header option, key, and then the data, the value. So in more complex apps, you may want to provide other types of information in the header. So header information is really useful for information that might be shared among other routes as well. So this is commonly where you'll put like API keys or API settings. You'll put them in the header, so that way they're separate from the data and the body, because the body shouldn't be evaluated unless all the headers pass. And that's kind of thing here. So one of the another common header can be version number. So if your API has different versions, because let's say this is an API you provide to the public. And we've talked about our versioning systems, right? Remember how we talked about the XYZ versioning systems? How if you change X, it technically would break older versions. Well, you might want to keep some the older version still available for legacy systems. You can let them know, hey, we're not updating it anymore. If there's any security vulnerabilities, you're on your own, but the API is still open, you can still use it. Well, you may not want to analyze the body of the system unless you know where it should go. And so you can analyze the header first before even trying to parse the body to know what sort of version you're using so that the body can be different. That way the body in version 2 and body of version 1 can be completely different between the two because you want to parse them until you check the header first. This is why header data is where you store information that is disconnected from the body, where the header data is not related to the body. Does that kind of make sense? So some of you might be like, oh, can we just put the token in the data? Totally, technically could, but that means we have to parse the data before even checking to see if they're authorized. That's why we add it here. And I will say, just for a little final fun fact, the main reason for this in the past, because when the body of a system was analyzed or parsed, it might contain code that the server might run. So first, we authorize the person first before we start trying to process anything here, just in case there's some sort of malicious code hiding in there. Make sense? All right, so got that, all that's there. Now, we're hoping to get back is a response again. That's inside there. Spot. Here we go. Log. If we go back to our API again and look at it, what are we expecting back from the back end?
We should be expecting confirmation of the new user that was created in the database.
Confirmation or the customer itself, the customer data? Are we getting
Customer data, I
confirmation
guess
or the
that's what
customer
I
data?
meant. Confirmation
Taylor?
of the data.
Confirmation of the data. So we're expecting the data back, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Yes, we should be getting back the actual created customer data. And so the way we know this works is if username and password isn't sent back. We should only see the data related to the customer, none of the user information that's in our data object here. So that's one of the other main reasons I do like keeping all the data inside this object, because in the response, we should only contain the customer data plus the ID. That's what we're expecting back. Once this works, we know that the customer account was created, the account was created, so we could technically log them in right away. This time, we're actually, I'm pretty sure we did this last time with our Gigi likes. This time I don't want to do it because I actually want to go through creating the login system and actually make sure that people have to log in. So we're going to create a user, but then force them to log in right after. Sound good? Or again, this is something you can change. You can look at Gigi likes to see how you can log someone in after they create an account. What we can do here is we might just put in a message or do a pop-up saying register successfully, log in, and then send them to the login screen. For now, let's go ahead and actually, let's do that. We can actually redirect them to login screen. If this works. So if this works, we'll print to the console, but then we'll also send them to the login screen. Does anyone remember in React, how do we send someone to another screen?
We use navigate.
What was that again? Nicely done.
Use navigate.
Yes, we need to bring in a hook so we can bring in one of the React Router DOM systems. So we use React Router to do our navigations. If we just send them via a natural normal system by just changing the URL using HTML or JavaScript, it's going to actually reload the page and we would lose any sort of provider data or any sort of static, any sort of data that's stored in the system. So any of our providers that are storing data would lose it. We don't want to do that. We want to avoid that kind of moving around the site. We want to move around the site utilizing React Router and the navigator. So that way we make sure that if there is any data stored, we don't lose it. And so here we're going to go ahead and pull, again, since this is from a package, I'm going to put it at the top. So import router, and it should pop up. There we go. And here, if we do use, so look at the hooks that are provided. See, there it is. Use navigate, not navigate. I think it is navigate, right? It's use navigate, right? And we just call it navigator or navigate. Use navigate. And then in here, just like a use state, I'm going to do, I'm sure it's just navigate. Yeah, I'm just going to return that. Navigate, just like that. And that'll give us the navigate entity. Again, provided by a provider. And just to throw that out there, just to make sure you understand how this stuff, why this stuff works, and why you should start feeling familiar with providers in context. If we go back to our app, we have browser router right here. This is our provider. That's what this 100% is. This is the provider from React Router. This provides any later on components, anything for the router system to work. So when we do use navigate is pulling that from this browser router component. It's asking for it from here. Navigate, and down here inside of our create customer, after creates will do navigate. What method is, or is it just navigate parentheses? I think it would just be navigate parentheses. It changed it from when I used to do this. So, anyone know?
Parentheses looks good.
I think it's just parentheses. Yeah, I think it is. It used to be like go to or navigate to. Now I think it's just navigate and parentheses and the route we want to go to / login. Send them to the login screen, which right now should be blank. Great. We're going to go ahead and send them to navigate. Sorry, send them to log in via navigate. Let's see if this all works. Head back over. Let's refresh the page. Let's go ahead and do. We're at 5 now. Yes, yes, we are. So 5. Test it. 5. Tester. Again, that's how I'm doing the password. Tester. And are you okay? There we go. Submit. I got error. Why? 4.1 unauthorized customers. Oh, the token was unauthorized. Did anyone else get unauthorized, or did theirs work?
I did too.
But unauthorized, huh? All right.
Authentication is required.
Authentication key. Here's authorization, isn't it? Token on. Authorization bearer, yeah. Headers. Spell that right? Yeah, I did spell it right. output response. Here in the headers. I don't do the authorization header. Why not?
Does it have to be in quotes or no?
Doesn't have to be. I know I did it before because it's what you do,
Oh.
but I don't think it needs to be. Doesn't have to. Did it not refresh maybe and didn't take the code? No, it got the error, so yeah, it should work. We'll try one more time and we'll check the back end. Unauthorized. Interesting. So one thing I could do, of course, is test this with Postman to see if it's working right. Make sure that the customer's route works. Customers post. Yeah, I did do post, right? Yeah, I did do post. I'll look back at IntelliJ. Full authentication is required. That's authentication. Wait, signed claims JWSs are not supported. That's not what I expected. It sees JWS. Your authorization worked on this, right? Matt?
Yeah, we got it working last time. It worked with the test controller.
Let's try with Postman. So we're going to this endpoint. So we're going to go. I'm using the wrong browser on this actually. Which realized. Yeah. So I'm going to do that. That much. And then here. Tab. Man. Water. I'm going to go ahead and make these go small. Side by side. Actually, not small. One way of doing that. I'll do this. Side by side. A little bit. A little more. Really. Don't have me type anything. I don't type stuff on recording. Passwords. There we go. So go back to the console. I should have a token here and yeah, there it is. So I'm going to try actually using this token. That looks really long, actually. Why does that look so long? Why is that long? Is that such a long token? That feels extremely long. I don't know. We'll find out. It's fine. All right. So here we'll go ahead and do empty. Great, of course. Fonts. Off. That would be more. Instead of doing it here, I'm gonna go here and do it. Let's do organization. And paste that in. Oop, I got double quotes around it. Dang it. Okay, got that. And body, and this guy's putting the body, we're going to put in the data we got for here. Body, I'm going to just do the exact same data here. I probably should have printed out this time.
It might be easier just to do a get. You wouldn't get anything back, but it would at least be it would at least check the authorization. You wouldn't have to have a body on it.
Again, I want to just test this whole thing, but
Okay.
should we do a get on? If we just do a get on for the customers? I guess we can. Actually. Okay. Slash. let's try to sign in. Let's see if that token looks right. So localhost 80, but this time we'll go to API/auth/sign in. Body JSON bit. Name 6 word there. The post, send that. Got a token. It is just as long as it is there. So grab that. Copy. Here. It's that. Send. Still unauthorized. Still saying that full authentication required and signed claim JWSs are not supported. Let's go back to the auth controller. Let's sign in. JWT token. So we're going to look at this. So let's look at the generate JWT token. Under JWT utils. Here. Look here. Secret, that's correct. This is all correct. And then we got this thing. So validate the JWT token. Set signing key, parse claims, JWS. I want to flip my application just side by side. Yeah, I want you guys are doing the exact same thing I'm doing to try to evaluate if this is working right. Take a look at the code and see if you can find the error just as much as I am. Goal, of course, is just navigate this application in a way that makes sense, looking for where you think the error might be based on what we're getting. So this is mentioning something about this sign claim JWSs are not supported, and we've never gotten that before in our system. So that's what we want to check on. I'm pretty confident this is correct. JWT is parser, signing key, and the parse claim JWT auth token. So token. Come down here, and look at both generate and get. So we're going to take a look at these and see what we're getting. Okay. Don't use the expiration system. So I don't really copied this. I realize this is exactly what I wrote too. Username from JWT token, string token, JWT's parser, set signing key, JWT secret, parse claims, JWT. We do JWS, by the way. This is a small item that was changed in one of the videos where JWS is now used, not JWT anymore. So it's a bit misleading because you're still using a JWT, which is a JSON web token versus a JSON web signed token.
I had a feeling that was it. I was looking for where that should be and I passed right over it.
Yep. This, I believe, is what we're missing. So save that and then reload the application. I knew that one's gonna be hard for you guys to find. That's like, I'm pretty sure that's what it is too. So I saw that every single like, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But it's fine. This is the get. This is not the generate. The generate should be fine. It's the getting, and so the authorizing. That's why we get a valid token, about a good-looking token, but it doesn't parse the token because we're not looking at the right item. We do this. This is where the key item here is. We sign the token, and that's when you use JWS instead of JWT. If we didn't sign the token, we would use JWT, and that's a Java-specific item. This is stuff that's automatic in other JWT systems, and like Java and other ones. They don't have this differentiation between JWT and JWS. I am not aware of a version or variation where you would not use signing, so not sure why, but this is how it works. Okay. First needs to do JWS, do that. That should do it. Let's go ahead and test by just doing the get, send. Still on my list. I'm telling you to do token maybe. What? Fail to lazily initialize collection of role. Session. What's that? Oh, I'm not logged in, right? You rebooted the application, so there's no login yet, so that token isn't valid anymore. Sign in again. Token. And, yeah. Log in, right? No. Saying session, we don't use session. No error, good. Any ideas? No, I'm gonna start using this now. Easier. Still not good. Same thing, so the roles. So does anyone know in the auth system where we do the role setup?
Could you phrase the question again, please?
The
Where do
role
we
setup.
configure this stuff? Yeah.
Off controller.
Control, not.
Auth
No,
control.
the models.
Auth package, right?
You start here in the web security company. You start here to make sure this is set up correct first.
Mhm.
Labeled, yep, we got that. We got the exception handling, authentication entry point, unauthorized handler. That's fine. Session management, session create policy. Session create policy should be stateless. It is good. So I want to make sure that because so there's no session. I know we do this here. Just want to make sure that was correct. New session was stated here first. So we do not use sessions. So let's probably that error message. And then yeah, we have the authorized permit items. We have the auth for you, and then we have testers permit all. But this is expected. And then everything else is authenticated, and we have the add filter before, and this is where now we're going to try to filter or validate the token. So these two items. So again, since we're not getting any errors during the get a token, it's probably not there where the problem is. We're logging in, we're trying to log in and or use our token because we're having a problem. So it is one of those two segments. So we can take a look here though. Authentication JWT token filter and the username password authentication filter. We have these. Look up here, we can see authentication JWT token filter is using our auth token filter, which is something we created right here. Let's take a look at this. Yeah. Navigate through the files. Look where these items are being used. Let's look through, navigate through each one by one. So here we can take a look. We've got the user detail service implementation, which is our user detail service. We might need to look at this implementation. We might need to look at that next. I'm going to start through here first and look at anything that has to do with roles, because this is what's happening here. Fail to lazily initialize a collection of role. I'm gonna wait for a second before I do that.
Let's see.
Here that we set the roles, do we? Let me set the roles. So we get the token, yeah, RSVP, do all this. Check that quick. Doesn't anything here about roles. So let's look at our user details implementation. If you hear the roles, there we are. Role, new simple granted authority. So now we can take a look here and see if this is set up right. Start here. User details implementation. User list granted authority, authorities, user.getRoles.stream.map. That is correct. Role is new simple granted authority. Role.getName.name. Collect collectors.toList. It should, for all intents and purposes, I feel like it should work. Unless it's something else somewhere, unless there's a problem somewhere else I'm not aware of. 2 seconds. I'll make sure on this. Roles. Oh yeah, the roles. Should not be lazy, by the way. I completely forgot about that. It says failed to lazily initialize. I didn't think of this. We actually have this set to eager. This is the one item where it needs this data, period. It needs this information for the authentication system. Thinking that one, our problem might be not able to pull the user role information from the user because it's set to lazy, not eager. And that's what the problem might be. Let's find out. And that's not one that anyone here should actually know, because I think I just did this on mine without really digging too deep into it. Because again, the details aren't necessary, just knowing that it needs eager roles to be able to run correctly. Because you, again, lazy only loads information when it's needed. May not work. So. There it is. That is it. So your role system should be one of the only items that is eager. We need that data for the authentication system. And we don't want to have to make the authentication system ask for the data, be, hey, I need this. We just want to be like, I know you need this, so here it is. So I'm just going to load it up fully.
Did I miss it, or did you restart the server before you tested it at Postman?
I restarted. Yeah,
Okay.
I clicked over here on the left. So you might be used to see me go up here to click it.
Yep.
I click this one
okay.
because if I click this one, it asks me if I want to terminate the server, and I don't want to be asked that. If I click this, it auto terminates and reboots the server. So
Okay. Yep.
I click this one to see.
I figured
No, it
it
doesn't
just
get
wanted to ask.
Weird. All right, not sure why it didn't ask me if I want to do that or not. Usually it asks, are you sure you want to reboot the server because it's already running? What?
Damn it. Mine works in Postman, but not my site.
I'll check that in a second. But why is my thing died? Now my server doesn't run. What the heck happened? Or 8080 is already in use, but it's not. It's like running in the background somehow. Weird. All right, not sure what happened there. It didn't reboot right. That was weird. Okay. I don't know what happened there. So yeah. Here, they're running. There, go here, so here, got it here. Let's try over here on the left now. Let's see what here. You said it still didn't work for you?
Correct. I was able to successfully do a GET request in Postman, but it was still getting unauthorized from my React site.
1 second, let's see if I do. I did not, so you have to check yours. All right.
Okay.
Might need to reboot your server again, or reboot the front end maybe? I don't know.
Let me see. Let me reboot one more time before I share, just to see if it is simple as.
That's gonna work. The front end should work.
Okay, that's up. Let me tick these up by 1. No, I'm still getting unauthorized, so I will share.
What is the backend showing?
The backend is still saying full authentication is required, but I'm no longer getting the cannot lazily. And
Yeah.
I can successfully do a get on customers through Postman.
Huh. Let's take a look at your, let's take a look at your backend or your data. Look, words. Look at the back of the code of the Java of the React app.
React, got it.
Yes. That tells me there's something wrong with React.
Oops. Come on, move, please. Oh, come on. I've got too much stuff here. 1 second.
I know what it is.
Oh,
I
you
caught
do?
it fast enough. Yep. Anyone know what it is? Let me see it. It's a dumb one. He's not gonna like it.
I wasn't gonna like it regardless.
It's one of the ones that isn't completely obvious, and it's annoying. And again, it's gonna be annoying once you know what it is.
Oh no. checking my spelling on everything now.
Not spelling. Go
Oh,
to
okay.
Postman for a second.
Postman, yeah.
So again, where does the authorization come from?
It comes from the header, right?
Yeah, the authorization call the header called authorization. So look at the authorization key here, and then also look at what's in the value. Look at that quick, then look back at your code.
Authorization bearer. Minimize.
Anybody see it?
Is he missing the word authorization?
No, authorization's fine.
Is it because he has the word bearer with the
Is it the
token?
colon in bearer?
Thank you, Taylor.
Oh,
Told you he was gonna hate it.
serious. All right, before I take this down, I'm gonna make sure that it actually works.
No
Hang
worries.
on.
Told you we were gonna hate it.
Son of a. I'm gonna mute myself and swear for 20 minutes.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh, he's gonna hate this one. It's one of those annoying ones. It's just like, god damn it. All right, so there we go. All small fixes, nothing too major there. Just yeah, what was it? To clarify the couple things we fixed. One was the eager instead of lazy, and then on the JWT utils, we want to use JWS, not JWT, on the parse claim JWS. Which again, this is one of the things I really hated about the JWT implementation for Java, because we use JWT here, JWT here, JWT here, and then all of a sudden, randomly, somewhere else, we do JWS right here. And it's like, really? So it's an annoying item, but just try to be aware. That's again why I make sure you have the Geeky Likes version of the application to look at and take a look at and compare against. And a lot of it, you're just kind of just bringing over. You're not changing much in the authentication system. All right. Anybody else have a problem? There's 2 changes on the back end you need to make. And then the front end was pretty much happy, as long as you have no colon. Anybody else have a problem? All right. So we have a successful registration system. To confirm it, we're going to pop that. We're going to look over here on the right. We see our customer data. So ID is member, automatically false. Again, we wanted that. License number is there, name is there, and we have 2 null rentals and stores, which is not something we provided to the back end. So we know that is definitely giving us back a customer record. The downside here, though, is this is a problem. I do not want the user record loading. So we're going to make another change to the back end quick for a security problem. Normally, and I don't normally include any sort of security items, we definitely don't want user being sent down. So in the customer record here, I'm just very quickly add to this JSON ignore. We do not want this data being passed to the front end. So we're going to ignore this record. Make sense? Like I said, as you saw before in the other data point, I didn't care about the security issue of like sending down the ID and the username. But this is one, if you have this in your project, this one's going to look bad. You never want to send down the user record, and you don't want to send the hashed password down, because sniffers will take that. Hashed passwords are gold. So you do not want to pass that down. So one last thing you can also do, again, and this is probably a smart thing to do, is in the user record itself. Same thing, JSON ignore on the password, just to make sure that if somehow in some sort of unexpected situation, your backend does send this data down, it does not add this to any sort of JSON system. So JSON ignore there as well. So just in case somehow this data set or this data goes down, we protect that key item, the password. We never want the password data getting to the front end, especially not the hashed variation of it. Make sense? So, a little bit of security item there. That's important stuff. So on your projects, be aware of that stuff. Try to keep those items in mind. Again, security doesn't have to be a major item of your projects, but some of these basic items like this, you definitely want in there because it just looks better. All right. Cool. So got that in there. Do a little challenge, you guys. So we're going to do a challenge on Friday. We're going to stop here. And so Friday's challenge actually will be for the 1 hour when we start our class, will be to actually build the login form using the register form and the register item as a reference. So when you register And using register, we're gonna have you guys attempt the login form up to, but not including the auth provider. So that's what the lesson will be tomorrow, is we'll actually start including the auth provider, but you should be able to get the token through login. So and 1 hour should be enough time for you and one person to try to figure out how to do this. So on Thursday, instead of an algorithm hour, we're going to do a React hour. You guys will take the project and we're going to try to build out the login form. Again, you can use the register and new user form as your reference. So we're not doing anything new in this form. Everything the login form needs is already in new user form. What data does the login form need in order to log someone in?
Username, password.
Yeah, which we're technically getting that during the registration, right? We get the person's email, which is their username, and their password. So we're not getting new details or new information. We're just getting the username and password. Instead of creating the account, we're just using that information to log in and get a token. So the end goal for Thursday's challenge will be to send the data out and get back a token. Once we get the token, we'll be able to then update the auth record. So you'll have the challenge to try to do it yourself. Once the 1 hour is done, the first 30 minutes after that will be to kind of review what you guys have and see if anyone has any bugs or like, hey, this didn't work. Why didn't this code working? So this is going to be your attempt to try to write your own React code in an existing project. So because we're doing something very almost identical to what we just did, I want you guys to attempt it yourself first. And the reason why I want to do this is make sure that when you're doing tutorials, this is something you do on your own volition. And this is something that I used to do a lot when I was learning myself. If I notice that the video tutorial or the walkthrough or whatever tutorial I'm watching is going to do a very similar item to what we just did, one of my biggest exercises was to attempt it myself first. I would pause the video, try it out myself using what we just did as reference, see how close I could get. I would then watch the video and take note on where he or she or they varied or changed or did something that I didn't do. One of the benefits of that, of course, is that I learned from trying and getting close and making mistakes and fixing them in a version that I did. And then I would watch the instructor to see how close I was and make sure that I understood what was different from what I wrote and what they ended up writing. That makes sense. It's one of the best ways for me to learn. So anytime you see a tutorial or a instruction or something where you're about to do the exact same or a very similar item to what you just did, take that as a challenge to see if you can figure out how to do that similar item. You'll learn a lot from it. I can guarantee that. One of the main things that helped me to learn the most. And like I said, main thing I want to make sure is clear. I didn't always get them right. Whenever I did this, I didn't always get them right. Didn't always succeed, but the attempt, I learned a lot from those. And I was perfectly fine when, if I did it, the instructor then did a slight variation on it or did a slight change that went like, oh, I'm going to show you something new. I know we did this and this one, we're going to do this and the other one. I was fine with that because it was cool to then learn a different variation of it. But I was still proud of myself for being able to make it work with the basics that they were taught in the previous item. So that's what I'm going to do on Thursday. Any questions on that? Cool. All right. Stop share. That'll be it. 9 o'clock. We'll end up at 9 o'clock today, so 30 minutes early. So yeah, we'll stop there. So for Thursday, again, no real homework. What I want you to do again is start working on start working on the resume. So start building that out, start thinking about projects. If you want to start building your list out, you don't have to follow the list requirements that I gave out. If you want to start thinking about the projects you want to put on your resume, start thinking about those and work on something. Start building stuff. I think. Yeah, so that's gonna be the main focus. Start making sure you have items for your resume. That is the biggest thing we need right now, where making sure we have enough items for the resume. Because there is a chance we could, like, is it true? Yes, a lot of the companies may give you a algorithm test. Yes. Do all? No. Whether you pass the algorithm test or not, if you don't have enough projects, it's going to make your interview very, very difficult. So we do need to make sure we have projects ready. At the same time, like I said, because the companies may provide you an algorithm test, you do need to know algorithms. But like I said, one of the main things is you can practice algorithms up to the day of the test, right? Mm-hmm. Once you send that resume in, you can start practicing your algorithms right up to the day of the test. Can't really work on your projects right up to the day of the interview, right? Not as great. You need to have projects there. Now, can you touch them up once you submit the resume? Of course, you can touch up projects on your resume once you submit it because you provide GitHub URLs. So you can update your projects once you send the resume. You can't change which projects are on your resume, can you? No. So that's something to keep in mind. That's why I'm probably should have, and maybe I should have clarified this a little earlier, why I want to say like 75% project, 25% algorithm. Because the projects, you need to decide what those items are for your resume before you send your resume in. You can practice algorithms and really, and also cram them right at the end. You can't cram everything at the end. That's why you do need to do some now, but you can definitely do a larger amount once you submit your resume. Does that make sense? So if you're wondering what to work on and you're worrying about it, projects are definitely the item you should be putting more time in. You want to dabble with you want to definitely practice your algorithms, make sure you're not rusty. So at the time of the interview, you're not trying to just rush everything and burning yourself out before the interview test and then get nervous and panicky. We can definitely do we can definitely switch to a 75% algorithm, 25% project once the resumes are in. All right. So I will say if you do go a day not working on not coding an algorithm, but doing a lot of time on your projects, I am okay with that. But you shouldn't go a whole weekend without attempting at least one algorithm. That makes sense? A good expectation of kind of like understanding what you should be working on. And so like I said, I'm pretty confident I'm going to give you guys the projects list assignment on Thursday, because the goal for that item is to make sure you have a checklist or a list of items whenever you're thinking like, I have free time to code, what should I code? You can look at this item to kind of pick out which one you want to work on, and you'll have a list of items you can pick from. All right. That's one of the main reasons for this list of projects for your resume. And so that anytime you're like, I have time to code, instead of trying to just stare at your screen like, what should I work on? You can go to this list and pick something from there. All right. Any final questions, comments, concerns? I'm going to stop the recording.